Hey guys, hope you're all having a great day. So the other day I was going grocery shopping with one of my friends. We went to a place called Aldi, and as most grocery stores have, they had like a section where they had like things that were on sale or just seasonal stuff, all that kind of stuff. And so because I was shopping in September, they had some bulbs there, which I found quite interesting. Now, there's a number of places that you can get bulbs from, pretty much anywhere that'll sell other plants. Bulbs can kind of be a little bit more on the expensive side, depending on which types that you're getting. I've seen bulbs that are anywhere from like 30 cents a piece to, $1 or $1.50 a piece per bulb, even more than that. But I saw these boxes here. These boxes were only $6, and what's crazy about them is there was like maybe 4 or 5 or even 6 different types of boxes. Like they had different mixes in them, and they each had 30 bulbs in them, which is kind of crazy. For only $6, you get 30 bulbs. What particularly struck my interest with these is like this box I'm looking at right now has 10 bulbs of tulips, 10 daffodil, and then 10 allium. And if you look on the actual box, it tells you when each plant is going to bloom. And what's really interesting is you're actually going to get blooms on here from like early to almost late spring. So you actually get like successions of bulbs versus just planting all the same type of one bulb. So it kind of puts it in this little kit for you, which I found really interesting because it makes it super easy for the average consumer. You don't need to know a whole lot about bulbs. You don't have to pick out your own things. You just can buy this box and then be ready to go. So what I figured I wanted to do was I'll make a video on it, talk about the 2 different types that I got, and then I also want to show you guys how I'm planting my bulbs and what products I'm going to be using in order to get good success for next year. So just to start off, I want to talk about the 2 different types that I got. I only got 2 boxes for now because I don't know exactly how much these are going to fit into the rest of the design that I do with other plants, but I figured I would try it out. So this one that I have here, the red box, this one has 10 tulips Van Eyck, which is like a pinkish red type of tulip, 10 daffodils. I think it's replete. I'll put everything on the screen for you, but these are really cool because they're a double daffodil, and I love that they have a little bit of orange to them. And then there's 10 alliums. I don't even know how to pronounce the last name. It's like Sphaerocyphalon or something like that. I don't know. But they're cool. They're a small allium. They just have little flowers. And so usually what I think is going to happen with these is the daffodils are going to bloom early to mid-spring. The tulips are going to bloom mid-spring, and then the alliums are going to bloom mid to end spring. So it'll be just kind of in that succession. And what I'm planning on doing with these is I actually want to plant all of them together instead of separating them out. I think I'll do it like in 2 different groups. I'll show you later on in the video. And if you plant these bulbs together instead of separating them, you're going to have flowers in that same spot for pretty much all of spring. So that's kind of what the idea is with these boxes, at least that I can assume. But yeah, I'm excited for this one, especially because of those double daffodils. That's what I'm most excited for. And then this other one I thought was pretty interesting as well. There's 10 tulip orange Van Eycks. These are kind of like just like a medium orange, a little bit more pastel. Then there's 10 daffodil martinet, which these look like a jonquil daffodil possibly. It looks like they'll get multiple flowers per stem. So those look pretty cool. Those have some orange tones in them as well. And then there's 10 ixias possibly. I actually haven't heard of this before. They look quite interesting. They remind me a little bit of a baptisia. And then the way that these bloom is the daffodils and the ixia, if I'm pronouncing that right, are going to bloom early to mid-spring, and then the 10 tulips are going to bloom mid-spring. So this one isn't going to bloom as late into the season as the red box will. But they will still bloom for a longer period of time versus if you just planted one thing. And again, these are only 2 of the boxes that they had. I think there was 6 different types in total. So if you have an Aldi, or also just in general, these are Garden Line. That's what the brand is. Maybe you can look on their website. I'll see if I can link a website down below, or see if any other places carry them. But I'm very excited about these. The next thing I wanted to talk about is just when you want to plant these bulbs. I think it says so on the box when you can plant them. Any general area that's in New England where I am, you can plant them from September to October. So it doesn't really matter exactly when, just any time around that time period. So you'll see on the box. If not, you can look it up online as well. And then the other thing I just wanted to mention is what products that I am going to be using, because I think that's actually just as important as what you are planting, to make sure that you give them the proper care that they need in order to bloom. So I'm going to be using two different products today when I put these in the holes. One of them is just going to be a regular fertilizer to use. That's what this big purple bag is. Now I have a bunch of other bulbs coming in the mail, so that's why I got such a large bag. You don't need this if you're only going to do one little box like this. But this is Bulb Tone from Espoma. It's an organic fertilizer, and you just want to sprinkle some, like maybe, I think it's like a couple tablespoons or a tablespoon per bulb or something. So I'm just going to kind of shake it in the hole. It looks like there's a cat behind me. You might be able to see that. And then the other thing too is this is called Repels All. This is a product from Bonide. I'm going to link both of these down below too if you have a hard time finding it. The Repels All is really great if you have issues with animals eating your bulbs. I made a video, I guess I'll link that down below too. There'll be a lot of links down there. The Repels All is a really great granule that you can use, and it just helps things like squirrels or other, animals from eating your bulbs in the winter and the springtime. I've used it before, but I've actually looked into this a little bit more, and it says specifically on the package to put this in the hole that you're planting, not just to sprinkle it on top. So I'm going to do that for now. I'm going to actually put this in the hole with the bulbs, but then in the springtime, if I'm having any other issues, then I can continue to sprinkle some just on the soil. But at least in the fall, that's when you can use this. And this size of container lasts for quite a while, or it can do quite a number of bulbs. So you don't have to worry about getting too much of this. Okay, so now that my spiel is over, let's get to planting. So I think I'm going to plant the red box of bulbs right around here. We just established this bed a couple years ago. Also, Sebastian is in the window watching me. Hi, Sebastian. So we have a rose here, which that's actually all budded up and is going to start blooming soon. Another rose here, and then you can see that there is a weeping Norway spruce here. But there's this empty space here and this empty space on this side. And we weren't really planning on planting anything else in this spot because this will eventually grow and kind of take over this area. So I think what I want to do for now is I'm going to split the bulbs in half. I'll do 5 of each variety in a hole here, and then 5 of each variety in a spot here. And I might just kind of spread them out throughout this area. But I think I want to put them in this way. All right, so before we plant them, let's actually open up this box and see what we got. I'm just gonna end up getting rid of this box anyways. Okay, I see some bulbs in here. So this looks like the daffodil bulb. So we have all of these. You know what, I'll take the rest of them out after. This is definitely the tulip bulb. And then, I think I remember looking at this before. Yes, the allium bulbs are incredibly small. So these are the allium bulbs. Here's 4 of them. Usually when you think of alliums, you think of like the giant alliums, but this is a really small variety. So we have these 3 types of bulbs that we're working with, and I'm gonna split them 5, 5, and 5 into those 2 different areas. Okay, so I'm at my dad's house now. You can see I've changed outfits, and I'm gonna plant this second box of bulbs. I think what I wanna do is I have a hydrangea here, which we transplanted, and it hasn't really bloomed, but hopefully next year it'll bloom. And some heuchera over here. So I'm thinking to add in some early spring interest when both of these don't look like too much. I'm gonna plant them just in a small wave like this. There's another hydrangea behind me as well. That's a smaller variety. Just kind of mixed in throughout here, and then hopefully these will kind of fill in and they will cover up some of that foliage when it's not looking too great during the summer, but I'm not going to cut anything back until they've already started to brown a little bit. So I'm going to put them in here, but I also want to show you guys how to actually plant bulbs in case you haven't done it before or haven't had great success. So I want to show you in a little bit further detail how I actually do it. So as I open this, these are actually in a bag this time, which is nice. The other ones were not in a bag. The best thing I just wanted to show you with these bulbs is, let's say this is a tulip bulb. I'll show you for each one of these. So the tulip bulb that I have right here, what you want to do when you plant these in the ground is you just want to make sure that you have the right point facing up, because that'll actually make a difference if they're going to grow or not. This one here is actually a really good example. Some tulips don't necessarily have any roots at the bottom, but this has some roots, as you can see. and then it has a little bit of like a tip on the top where it's pointed. So a tulip bulb you would want to put with this point facing up because this will be the new growth, and then this point facing down because the roots are going to come out from here. If I grab the daffodil bulb, it's a little bit easier to tell with daffodils. This is going to be where the new growth starts, and then you can actually see some of these roots that were left over from the springtime. So this you just want to have right in the ground, and it makes sense. I mean, roots are going to go down and then the stem's going to grow up. And then the same thing kind of goes with this one. This is the Elex, whatever one that was. Again, tiny little point at the top, and then the roots are at the bottom. So, but I just want to point this out because some people might not even realize that there's a correct way of putting bulbs in the ground when planting them. So that's pretty much it. So like I said with these bulbs, what I'm planning on doing is I'm going to put them in somewhat of like a ring around this way, somewhat make it natural looking, but I still want it to kind of be around these plants. And these plants, all of them were put here this year, so they'll only continue to grow and get wider. So I think they'll end up kind of covering up and filling in this whole space. I've got this section all cleared out. Next, I'm going to take the repels all. What's cool is this has a little shaker function, so I can just shake it like this. Just get a pretty decent amount covered in there. And this is going to prevent squirrels, chipmunks, other animals, armadillos if you have them, from getting to anything. And then I have my fertilizer. I always eyeball the fertilizer, but you can measure it if you want. Then I just kind of mix it in a little bit, not too crazy, but just so it's not sitting with the fertilizer, but just kind of mixed in. And then these bulbs, I'm just going to separate them based on what I know, so that way I don't have like all the tulips here and all the daffodils here and all that kind of stuff, just so they're mixed thoroughly throughout. Because the rest of these bulbs are so incredibly small, I did this with the other grouping as well. I'm going to cover these up and then only have maybe an inch or so left before the top layer of soil. So that way these don't get buried too far, because it's likely that these don't need to be buried nearly as deep as the tulips and daffodils. I'd say the tulips and daffodils, I'm trying to bury maybe like 3 or 4 inches deep, versus these, like I said, are probably going to be about an inch. All right, so I have them dotted throughout. I know those are a little hard to see, and I really just put enough soil to cover up those other bulbs, and then I put these right on top. All right, that's pretty much it. Okay, so we have all the bulbs in the ground. I also just wanted to mention that I didn't water them in or anything like that. You don't really have to worry about that with bulbs because they're not really going to start growing immediately. I'm sure they'll start growing in the sense that they'll start putting roots in the ground, but they're not going to send up any shoots or anything like that until, I think it was early spring is when those first bulbs are going to come up, and then again it'll be kind of like a succession for these kits. So I'm very excited to see what happens with these. But I just wanted to show you guys the process of how I'm going to do these bulbs. If you're interested to see what else I'm going to be planting for bulbs, I did place an order with a company called Color Blends a little while back. But I set it so that way the order was going to be coming in when it's ready to plant. So if you're watching this shortly after this video came out, at that point, it'll probably be close to when I'm going to be able to get that shipment in, and then I can start planting my bulbs. But I have some other tulips and daffodils. I also wanted to mention that if you would like to see an update on these bulbs for how much they actually grow next season, I'll be providing some sort of update at some point next spring. It's likely going to be sometime around end of March, early April that these will start to show something. And then it'll be like the April-May timeframe where you'll start to really see some blooms. So I'd say check back, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, so you can see when I do post those videos in the springtime. If not, you can always come back and visit in the spring as well. I'll be busy with plenty of other stuff. But besides that, I hope you guys liked this video. If this was really successful, then I might check around at some other places for next year and see if I can get any other types of kits or anything like that. but I think this is a really great starter kit for anybody. And again, only $6. Plus, if you want to do the repels all and then the fertilizer, that's really going to future-proof it, or foolproof it, I should really say, so that way you don't really have any issues and everything's going to grow very well for you. I also wanted to mention one last thing, that both of these locations are pretty much full sun. The one I just planted in is going to be more like part to full sun because it does get a little bit of protection, but they will get a decent amount of light. So just make sure that you can put them in a space that gets a lot of light. All right, besides that, I will see you guys in the next video.